the best way to figure it out is to look ahead to the 2-3 turn. What are the players you're looking at there? And when you do that, it's pretty evident that the running backs, the pick in that rounds 2 or 3, you got to get a run, or you should get a running back. So I have to say that I think wide receiver is the play.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Well, John, let's bring you in here. You have been doing this for damn near 30 years, and I'm excited because I read through the draft plan today over at fantasypoints.com, and buddy, you hit it out of the park. It was fantastic with everything you have in there, from your overall big approach, your 12 players that you have to target for optimal roster construction. You got players to pass on, your favorite picks by round. Kudos to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. A very original name I came up with this year for 30 notable players that I'm passing on their ADP, the Dirty 30. I know that was a very low-hanging fruit, but it just fit too well. Sometimes that low-hanging fruit is quite delicious. But yeah, I spent a lot of time, basically spent, most of June and July, quite frankly, as we record this at the second to last day of July, just mapping it all out, really basically trying to devise the optimal roadmap. Every year's kind of the same, but there are nuances. For example, last year, I was more on the running backs, period. And I think that worked out. That was a pretty good call. I was actually okay with opening a draft 2 running backs with your first 3 picks. That is not the case this year. So, we're not going to regurgitate the whole article. And by the way, the article has kind of evolved over the years. I mean, I started this because people literally didn't know what to do. It's like, I have the 7th pick. I don't know what to do. I'm like, all right, well, let me start writing an article that would put myself in all these positions. What would I do? And early on, a lot of hand holding. It's evolved, the article, over the years. It's kind of gotten down to, while it's quite long, I kind of feel like it's the crux of the matter. All right. Mm-hmm. Every year's a little different. What's the landscape like this year? Is it a year to get a tight end early? Do you hold off on quarterback this year? Is it a year to go all in on wide receivers? Every year's a little different. So I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on it, using logic, using, my decades of experience. And also we are going to be talking about a lot of the players that I am personally targeting. But the crux of it will be, and we'll be a little repetitive, unfortunately, because we're going to be doing all 12 draft positions in multiple podcasts. The crux of it is really the first few rounds. Like, what's the start like? And that's what it's all about, because there is a pretty big drop off. There's a couple of big ones. There's one at like 50 overall with the players. 75 overall is usually a good one too. But it's really those first, even 50 picks, those first 3 or 4 rounds, it is really going to make or break you. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and they always say you can't win your draft in the first round, but you certainly can lose it. And I love the term you use there, hand holding, because last year was a big year for the return of running backs. So now there might be a lot of folks out there saying, I got to get back in the running back business. We're going to draft like it's 1998 again. But running back has some depth here. And in this article, you talk about not reaching, but you want to be in that wide receiver business early. And I think we're going to see that as we go through picks today. And oh, by the way, folks, if you want to read the article at fantasypoints.com and you're not yet a subscriber, which is ridiculous at this point if you're not subscribed and you're listening to us all these years, Guru Plan 25. That's going to save you 10% off a subscription at fantasypoints.com. Again, Guru Plan 25. Save yourself 10%. Hey, you're investing in your fantasy leagues. Invest in yourself, okay? Go out there and get one of these subscriptions. Help yourself out with your drafts, your DFS, your prop bets. It's going to pay itself back tenfold, John. So, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good here. You want to start knocking some things off here from the 1 spot? I don't have the 1 spot in any drafts that I know coming up.
My thing is when I come down to the Hansen 50, those
Uh-huh.
are my top 50 targets. We'll get into a lot of those.
Hmm.
I am obsessed with getting the players ranked and beating the market.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of this. So that's where I'm gonna. That's a lot of the players are market beaters. I believe that they're mispriced. We're keeping up with all the news, and by the way, on the site, um, I will be updating this and going through the exercise probably 3 or 4 times. And what is the exercise? We'll get into it when we start looking at draft pick number 1. The exercise is, look, we could use software, and I've used software in the past, and it does make it a little more randomized, which is good because life is random and people do random things in drafts. But the crux of the matter is the best way to kind of look at a good plan is to use the ADP as your guide. So that's what we'll do. We'll draft the first 2, 3, 4 rounds from every draft position, and we're not going to make it up. We're going to go off the ADP. If the ADP says the guy just went one pick in front of us, we're going to have to make another pick here. So, I think I'm ready to go.
Now, out there, you see in this fantasy football ethos, it's kind of cut and dry. People are saying they love our guy Jamar Chase from the Cincinnati Bengals. What say you if you got the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, as much as I love to take Bijan Robinson or even Jameer Gibbs at the top of round number 1, I really do think those two guys are spotless. They were on my flawless 4 last year, running back. Unfortunately, the fourth one, Brees Hall, was very flawed. The third one was Jonathan Taylor. I really do love those players, greatly value what they bring to the table. However, as I've always stated, the best way to figure it out is to look ahead to the 2-3 turn. What are the players you're looking at there? And when you do that, it's pretty evident that the running backs, the pick in that rounds 2 or 3, you got to get or you should get a running back. So I have to say that I think wide receiver is the play. I think there is a greater disparity or drop off between, let's say, Jamar Chase and the tier of receiver you're going to get a crack at in round 2. There's a greater difference between that guy and Chase than there is between Bijan Robinson and, let's say, Jonathan Taylor. So I'm that's the play. We could talk till we're blue in the face. If you have the first pick of the draft, you don't know what to do. I'm telling you the play is to go Jamar Chase, because when it comes back to you on that hook there, again, you will have access to Jonathan Taylor. And if you don't like Jonathan Taylor, or Jonathan Taylor somehow gone, you could use Chase Brown. I would use Chase Brown. And now then you come back right with receiver. Most likely. Like, you could take Chase Brown there. I did not do it in the article because I do value, I think there's drop-offs at all the positions here, noticeable ones. And I want to get, like, I've got JSN as like a kind of a third tier guy. I want to get as many third, fourth tier guys as possible because there's only so many of them. There's more running backs, as you said, this year spread across the board. So if I'm at 1, I'm opening with Jamar Chase. I'm getting Taylor or Chase Brown, and then I'm getting another receiver. The receiver I took, he might be a little polarizing this year, is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've never been a big JSN guy, and I know they're going to be conservative on offense, but I also know he's a major alpha dog, and I do like that.
Well, I'm looking at this ADP, and we're using Sleeper ADP, so shout out to Sleeper. Thanks a lot. At the end of the second round, so you're looking around picks, 23, 24, 25. I just want to throw this out there because we have a lot of home league folks that listen to us, and I know they get trigger finger here, John, and I see the name Lamar Jackson at 23. So just if you're someone who's got that first overall pick and you think, well, maybe I'll take Lamar or I'll take Josh Allen at the turn with one. So now, you're going to have 3 picks there in the first 25 if you draft first overall. What do you say to folks in that position who are trying to take, or maybe they're talking themselves into taking a quarterback?
Yeah, look, I hear you. I understand it. It's very tempting. I'm a big BPA guy, best player available. There might be an advantage, as there was last year, to doing what I'm saying here with these tiers, do it right at the quarterback position because the what did I dub them? The Fantastic Five, whatever. There are five elite guys and then a bunch of guys. So I do understand that, but we are a year older. He does put his body at risk. Granted, he's a freaking unicorn, and he's been incredible. We are coming off a career year where pretty much everything went well for him. So I just can't do it because we can get so many other options here. I know he's going to outproduce them, but the roster just comes out better when you hold off on the quarterback. I've done it time and time again. I've done 100 drafts, and this is normally the case. Let's be honest, but I think it's a little bit more pronounced this year.
All right, so first round, we said we're taking Jamar Chase. Come back in that second round, we're eyeballing one of those running backs, Jonathan Taylor or Chase Brown. In the third round, can we extrapolate this any farther down in maybe the fourth round with that 48th pick? I know we're starting to get a little crazy here, John, because you never know who's going to be around at that point, but just maybe some names here so people can kind of feel good about their first, 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, well, if you pass on quarterback in rounds 1, 2, 3, then you're probably coming out of the first pick. You're probably locked in to holding off on quarterback. So let's take a look here. I'm looking at very current ADP, very late July. Chase at 1. When you come back, Lamar is on the board for your next pick. But then if you pass on a quarterback in rounds 2 and 3, Jaden Daniels is off the board, and so is Jalen Hurts, and so is Joe Burrow, by the way. So I guess I'm glad you brought it up because that is part of the analysis here. If you are drafting from that one hole and you do pass on Lamar or Jaden Daniels, let's say first pick of round 3, you're kind of locked into holding off on quarterback, which again, I don't have any problem with whatsoever because of the gross quality and depth. I'm thinking, by the way, this is going to be a huge year on the waiver wire because there are just way too many dudes at all positions. There is quantity and there's quality. Now, not great quality quarterback, but there will be guys who emerge. Maybe J.J. McCarthy, who surprised a little bit. Maybe even Sam Darnold again. So, yeah, we're holding off on QB, baby.
Interesting. Okay. What would you say to those folks drafting the one hole who are looking at a tight end? Because I know you said from day one your value play is your guy TJ Hawkinson. When you're in a draft like this and you're at the turn, you're drafting one, there's a long way until you come back and get that guy again. Are you inclined to maybe reach a little bit to make sure you get a tight end like Hawkinson's so you're not waiting and you're stuck at the end of a run and 24 picks later?
I think if you are targeting TJ Hawkinson, which I highly support, it's you're going to have to overpay a little bit, but it's worse than the overpay that you'll have if you're drafting at the end of round number 1. Unfortunately, now the data could change, the ADP can shift, but you can call your shot, plan it out pretty well. That's a 5th round pick, so you're basically, if you take Jamar Chase, which is my recommendation, you are simply loading up on the best running backs and wide receivers. And then when you get to round 5, you're taking TJ Hawkinson because you're probably going to have 3 great, well, you're definitely going to have 3 great receivers and a good back, or let's just say a very good trio of wideouts and 1 really good back, or 2 of each. I'm okay with either, but I do value getting that elite tight end, and I do have Hawkinson as the last guy of the elite tight end. I have him at tight end 4, and I do not think a top 3 finish would shock me. obviously has to stay healthy. But yeah, technically by the ADP, if you want an elite tight end, round 5 is the optimal round to get him, and it's Hawkinson, and you got to take him like 7 spots over his ADP, which is probably good because, your chances of getting sniped are lower, and you're not grossly overpaying for him.
So looking at your draft here in the Guru draft plan, again, go over to fantasypoints.com, use code GURUPLAN25 for 10% off. You went and did a draft, and you said, this is my starting point. I'm going to get Jamar Chase at the 101, and you went through your draft. It was Jamar Chase, Jonathan Taylor, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba. We haven't talked about him yet on the podcast. He's a polarizing guy, John, because a lot of folks were really high on him as a rookie, and maybe it wasn't what everybody thought, but there was a big-time breakout at the end of last year. The deck has been cleared, even though it's we could say lower octane offense. But Jackson Smith-Njigba is a guy that you want on this roster and you think is going to have a really nice season.
Yeah, when I add it all up, look, these are all good receivers. So, when we're comparing these dudes going in the same round, it's easy to be wrong because we're comparing players who are good. But, I think he stands out to me. I wasn't a big JSN guy coming out. I was big on Addison and Flowers. Mm-hmm. They're good. JSN, also good. I understand he's going to have to be lining up outside a little bit more, but they can be creative and get him inside. And there'll be a lot of 2 receiver sets. And he'll be a major alpha. I do believe that. He's young. He's been durable. Massive role. So I think he's going to beat his ADP a little bit, and not by much. So I'm not saying draft him over his ADP. I'm saying based on his ADP, for a rock-solid wide receiver 2, if you're starting a drafted 1 with Jamar Chase, I'd like him over Tyreek, T. Higgins. We do have some injury concerns with both guys, age as well with Tyreek. Garrett Wilson is tempting as hell. I love Garrett Wilson. He's on the freaking Jets. Terry McLaurin, I'm not into that high. Marvin Harrison, forget it. With Kyler, no. So, yeah, I like JSN there. By the way, in the plan, I didn't take Hawkinson. And look, if you do, I have no problem with Hawkinson. In fact, I'm very high on him. I just, for whatever reason in this, I'm not even exactly sure. I guess I saw a couple of running backs available to me, or 2 players available to me that I really, really liked. So then I reverted to my backup plan to Hawkinson, which I did, in fact, take Kelsey 2 rounds later.
Mm-hmm. And the reason that you didn't take TJ Hawkinson is because in the 4th round, you took Devonta Smith, Skinny Batman, favorite of the show. And then in round 5, at this point, you had 3 receivers and 1 running back, and RJ Harvey, the rookie for the Denver Broncos, was on the board. Right. He's somebody you're really high on. There's not a lot else out there in that Denver backfield. Reports out of training camp have been pretty glowing about how shot out of a cannon RJ Harvey is. So you got RJ Harvey as your running back 2 here. And then you came back in round 7 after Kelsey with Tony Pollard. So, a lot of people like to put together, okay, here's my running backs, here's my flexes. This team from the 1 hole was Chase, JT, and Harvey are the running backs, JSN, Skinny Batman, and who's Kelsey. Our third wide receiver? And Kelsey's our tight end. And then, right. You took Jordan Love as your quarterback a little bit later.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's absolutely part of it. I do feel very good about Jordan Love. I know I already wrote, he's my comeback player of the year. I'm like, hey, I understand. He was my guy last year, but did you know, you probably did. How about this? You want to talk about ridiculous. The guy had a great year in 2023, and we were kind of on that summer, by the way. 32 touchdown passes, all that. He actually increased his touchdown percentage last year. So he threw touchdown passes at a higher rate than the year before, which is absurd. And he also increases yards per attempt. It's like, if you do that in a lost season where you're hurt the whole year, hey man, I'm in. QB 14. I'm not saying he's going to light it up, But I will say we might get 30. We should get 30 tutties again.
Whenever guys play through a full season and they're injured and they aren't like out for the year, people always downgrade them because we don't take that into consideration of like, oh, this guy was playing with a bad wheel the entire season. We just think he stinks. And that's not necessarily the case. And oh, by the way, they gave him a first round pick in Matthew Golden on the outside. All right. So if you have any more questions on that, folks, again, refer to the draft plan.